Hi everybody. I wanted to talk about Astini Macro today. It didn't get enough attention, I think. Probably the bigger teams know enough about it and can implement it. But watching open qualifiers, it does seem that um, it's gonna be the thing that's gonna make the difference. Maybe in close qualifiers as well. At first, I didn't think that that was such a big deal. It seemed like a simple idea. But the more I look at the patch and how teams play, the more it seems like a big deal. Anyway, before we talk about Astini Macro and the Roshan cycle, I think it's a good idea to just think about why it's important. Rosh is obviously important. It has been important the whole time, like for a very long time. But it does seem that in the past year, at least towards TI and a little bit before that, Roshan in general just felt like a must-have thing, and the meta sort of developed about how you hold position around Tormentor and around Roshpit. Astini talks about it in his video. I'll link it in the description for those who want to watch that. Uh, I just wanted to make it a bit more coherent, I guess, with a more simplified look at why it matters. So these are the carries that were kind of relevant at the Dream League Season 27, but really, if you pick any of the latest tournaments, TI included, you're gonna see kind of a similar list. The carries that are preferred are the ones that have some kind of damage block and then ability to heal, so that you kind of have two lives without the Aegis. Heroes that don't have like an innate heal, like Gaz or Juggernaut, they tend to buy Satanic. But there are a lot of heroes such as Starblade Weaver, Abaddon, Troll, um, heroes that just they have an innate ability to just restore all of their health. That's kind of Skitter's go-to, I would say. So basically, the ability to restore all your health in the fight is extremely important. It might seem obvious because it's been the meta for a little while, but it hasn't been like that always. Sometimes it was just like glass cannon builds. Sometimes it was really you just build like control for yourself, and then you try to play for ages, and that's your kind of second life. But nowadays, it's kind of normal to see a carry that tends to generate a second life, like a second life from something else than ages. So that's part one. Why Aegis is important is because in general the meta seems to favor more kind of staying in the fight longer, being able to sustain damage. Withstand damage and then heal back up. So Aegis obviously works for that. Another thing is that with Aegis, obviously it's much easier to farm, and if we look at the finals of Blast Open Qualifier. There were two finals basically, but the ones that I want to look at is Inner Circle versus Pipsqueak, who are playing without Kidaru, which is kind of weird to me because I thought it was Kidaru +4 basically. Anyway, what you can see in many matches, but this series kind of showcased it quite well, is that there's this valley of advantage that you can get stuck in. So you kind of pick your lanes, you play the game, and then you kind of get stuck in not being able to progress the game. So you basically, you have 4K advantage, 5K, maybe even 10K advantage, but you can't really use it to gain more advantage. I guess it is because the map is big enough that, if the enemy team is competent at farming, then it's quite hard to out farm them. And in these three games, it kind of happened twice. So first game advantage was for inner circle, and then they lost. And then second game, it kind of the same story, around like 4K advantage for Pipsqueak. They managed to gain much more at some point, but then lost anyway. But you can see that before like 30 minutes, it's somewhat normal. And there are many games like this where just teams struggle to build a bigger advantage. And Roshan obviously helps with that. I mean, when you have Aegis, you can sort of decide what happens. For those wondering, game 3, that problem didn't happen, and then it was an easy win for Pipsqueak. As you can see, they did something different, or something different happened, and then they managed to get out of that advantage valley and towards the victory. But you can see how different this graph looks, and you can notice Roshan wasn't picked here, but that's for another video, I guess. So that's another reason for why Roche is important. I have one team versus one win team versus Nemiga, I guess. Self-hate and friends. But we'll look at it a bit later. So there are kind of two ideas. Is that you want Aegis because you want to survive and then fight, and you want Aegis because it opens up opportunities for like map movement and taking objectives and so on. Because without that, the game is unstable. So in a sense, Aegis really stabilizes the game nowadays. Now comes the Astini Macro. So for those who don't know, there is a day-night cycle, obviously, 5 minutes each, unless you pick Night Stalker, but that's, an edge case we're not gonna go into. And Roshan, for the first 15 minutes, Roshan stays at the bottom, and then the cycle begins where at night Roshan goes top, and during the daytime Roshan is bottom. And Roshan responds, if Roshan dies, then it respawns 8 minutes later, from 8 to 11 minutes later, basically. So the idea here is that the Roshan respawn cycle is kind of random because you have this 3-minute window when it can respawn. But really the idea is much simpler because of how this day-night cycles work is, although the Roshan respawn time is random, like in case of if you kill Rosh at 15 minutes, it can respawn at 23 minutes or 26 minutes. However, if you kill it at the right time, you can set it up so that you know exactly where this 3 minutes gonna happen, like if it's gonna be daytime or nighttime. And that's the Astini macro, setting up this cycle. So if you're Radiant, which is kind of preferred for this setup because it's quite hard to kill Rosh during the first 15 minutes, and it's much easier to kill it at around 17 minutes. And then you go for Tormentor and so on, but we're not going to really talk about it right now. So if you kill Rosh at 17 minutes, you get the next respawn time at night. So if you kill it at night, up until, 18, 19 minutes, you get it it will 100% spawn at top, which is a better position for Radiant, but we will talk about it later. So the idea here is that you can kind of kill it at 90 minutes, but then you run the risk of the maximum timer and it will respawn and walk to bottom. So you kind of want to kill it, worst case scenario, like 18 minutes, maybe 18:30 if you're quick with killing it, because you're gonna have, you're gonna be fighting against time. Realistically, 30 seconds is probably enough to kill Rosh if you have the setup. But what you really want to do is kill it at 17 minutes so that you have plenty of time to kill it and set everything up. And then if you do that, then the cycle may continue, because if you kill it at 17 minutes and let's say it respawns at like 27, then you can do that. But even if it respawns at 28, you can again do that. And if you get 2 Russians in a row, chances are you're probably gonna win the game. Although I don't know the stats for that. If you kill it at 19 minutes, then it can respawn at like, let's say, 29 minutes the next time. And then if you kill it even instantly, it still kind of puts you into this difficult position of it so you basically lose some portion of control. Dire can do the same thing. If you kill Rosh at 12 minutes or let's say 22 minutes, you set up the same thing. Rosh will keep respawning during the cycle that you want. So in that sense, both sides are equal, but timings are such that Radiant get their opportunity to set up this Astini Rosh cycle first. Okay, I hope this is quite like the illustrations help to understand. But to reiterate, we have this opportunity to set up Rosh respawn as we please if we kill it at the right time, despite the fact that it's supposed to be random. Probably Valve, if this will catch on and be a big deal, Valve can fix it probably in a number of ways. But realistically, for now, up until the qualifiers are going to end, this is probably going to stay. So it's quite important, at least in January, to understand this and execute this. Anything else about the timers? Oh yeah, I did mention Roche. I did mention Tormentor, but you can realize that here at 20 minutes, also Tormentor spawns. So you kind of get this opportunity to kill Roche, and then you will have Aegis for Tormentor, which is another big spike in terms of net worth, which is not easy to find opportunities to increase your net worth. And the same thing, if you kill Roche and then get Tormentor, it's the same thing. You kill Roche at 28 minutes, you get Tormentor at 30 minutes on your side as well, and so on. So basically what I'm trying to say is setting up this cycle is quite important. It really is a big deal. It's kind of like a broken hero that would be in the pool, and if you're allowed to pick that hero, then you should definitely pick that hero, right? You shouldn't pass it up. Kind of reminds me of Lone Druid at TI 2024. Passing up Lone Druid did cost, I believe it was Tundra with Dobson and Pure and Saxa. They got third place as they let Duratio play Lone Druid in one of the games in the loser bracket final, if I remember correctly, and they lost. And same thing kind of applies here. I think it's as big of a deal as like a broken hero, maybe even more so, because there are a few things that the enemies can do, but there are things that enemies can do. Right, I hope the Astini cycle kind of makes sense now if it didn't make sense before. We can actually look at some Dota. I did choose this replay because of one win team, not to hate on them, but specifically because for stacks and teams of let's say, I don't want to say lesser quality, but teams that didn't play enough together or don't have a coach or don't have like an analyst, this could be hard to set up in the game. Even if they know about the cycle, it might be hard to get the game to a level of I want to say relaxation, but so the random things are not happening. You kind of can plan the game out. It's harder to do for stacks. So for one win, it's probably not probably, but one win is the kind of team that can actually do this Astini cycle. Stacks might struggle with it. I don't want to focus on drafts specifically, but there's one thing that I want to mention, and that's the Furion pick, because I think it kind of plays into the whole idea really well, the way I see it, but they end up not using it for this Astini cycle setup. And I'm not hating on one win, it's just a good example. I'm sure they know about this, and I don't know exactly why they didn't do it. Probably I don't see some things that they see, and maybe I miss out on some of their reasoning why they choose to do this or that. But in general, this game, if we theorize that if they did manage to set up that cycle, they would probably win this game. So they pick Fury and 18th pick into Treant Draw Ranger. You can see that in some sense, Fury makes sense because these heroes, especially Drow and like Ringmaster, they have this static laning. Where Nature's Prophet, I assume they kind of planned that it was going to be mid. Furion with Tusk, Jakiro, like it's a lot of early game pressure. Furion can change the outcome of many lanes, pressure towers. And for Radiant, that's kind of what you want. You want to pressure towers, and we'll see why. So Furion seems like an odd choice in some sense, but at the same time, it makes sense what like their plan might be. I don't know exactly what their plan was, but I assume that that's part of the plan. So they get Windranger last pick, kind of a popular carry nowadays, and they get Axed, which is not. I think it's not a great matchup for Windranger. In a sense, like Axe buys Blade Mail, and you kind of can't really ult him. But anyway, that's not the point of discussion. So Furion is mid, and he's gonna do precisely what we were talking about. He's gonna, try to pressure lanes, basically win lanes, so that they have this opportunity to, set up the macro game. Kinda, we can skip a little bit here until we see like kills. So yeah, this is probably the start. So you can see that Furion is looking to HTP's base. We can kind of watch it from Furion's perspective. So he TP'd base, they can now overextend top, and Furion, while Slardar, he obviously cannot, make these moves, although, who knows. Furion has no TP, but he's happy to walk back, got his earned charges, etc. Slardar for now is farming. That's kind of, what do you expect from Furion? Now again, they're doing the same thing. Some, Slardar this time tries to counter it, but it doesn't work out. Again, Furion kind of doesn't spend much time mid at all. Gets Vessel. And although he did all that sort of rotating and he's top 1 net worth, you can see that it's not really winning them the game so far. Like, you wouldn't look at this position and be like, okay, Furion just destroyed this game and we're winning. So there has to be something that you're playing for, right? In a sense, like there has to be a bigger objective for which you're setting up. And one of the objectives is the tower. So they take the bottom tower and they take the top tower, which is already a good start. Astini in his video mentions that the mid tower and the top tower, because they tend to go down quite early, and these are the only points of entry for this Rosh pit. This is why this macro, from Astini's perspective, and I agree, is strong, because it's not that easy to set up a fight for Dire, because there are no towers to TP to. So if you're gonna show up for this rush fight, if you don't have this tower and this tower, then you're gonna have to run there, and it's not easy. Basically, that's the point. And if you do buy back, then the pathways to get there are quite long. On the other hand, Radiant have this easy opportunity to just win the fight by using like 2 support buybacks, or like offlaner buys back or something. They win the fight, they get the rush, they set up the macro. And they can do that because they have this outpost to TP to. Anyway, so they do pressure the mid tower. They're a bit ahead on gold now. Kind of going deep here. They do pressure the mid tower. So, like, from our perspective, if we're thinking about this Astini Macro thing, they're doing all the right steps, right, towards setting that up. I guess we can go a bit further. There's obviously fighting and things happening meanwhile. It's like the game is not only about the Rosh. thing. The other thing I can mention right now, I guess, is that Dire don't really have an opportunity to get Rosh earlier. So in that sense, they're kind of like one win are just waiting for Rosh to be here to kill it. There's very little like the chances of Nemiga getting Rosh. Excuse me. Before that, are quite small. Their easy lane tower is still there, so you know there's no way for Nemiga to really counterplay this Rosh pit. Like there's just nothing they can do. There's some fighting going on here, some trades. Kushi comes here. It's kind of like 5v5. So in that sense, Nemiga's draft really kind of failed already in some sense because they have nothing to stop this macro except maybe Trian putting vision up with shard that he buys at 50 minutes, but he's too poor to do that. It's really quite hard to win this fight. I would imagine for Nemiga, like they might stall and not let one win get Rosh, but then they will have to use a lot of heroes and probably end up losing a lot of farm on the map by trying to stop Rosh. So at this point, if we're thinking how Astini thinks, or if we're following this plan, then one win have to be thinking about setting up the map so that this is pushed in, and then they go for free Rosh in 1 minute. So whatever they're doing right now is just farming up whatever they need to get Rosh. It does seem like Nemiga kind of are aware of, that attempt might be made to get Rosh. But really, the issue here is that, okay, it's 70 minutes. We should be killing Rosh. We should be doing this. We should be fighting here. And if we have buybacks, which we should have, like, there's buyback, there's buyback, there's buyback. Furion doesn't have buyback, probably bought something. Probably can farm it up. They should be setting up for Rosh, but instead they're really not doing anything of particular. Like, to me, it's not clear why. I honestly don't know what they were thinking here. In a sense, what they can expect from Nemiga is that they're either gonna try to invade this area to prevent Rosh, like to get a kill here on a core and stall out the Rosh. But that's kind of risky for them because they might just end up going uphill into like 5 heroes here. Because that's what Nemiga should be thinking, that this Rosh is gonna happen. They have everything they need to do Rosh. Focus Fire plus, attack team, although it's not maxed out. Somebody should buy Blightstone. I don't remember how much like effective HP it removes from Rosh, but it's probably worth, worth 150 gold that you have to spend to rent it to kill Rosh. And you can see here, Rain is trying to push out bottom, and theoretically, Furion could be doing the same thing, like just hit it here a little bit, maybe force somebody to come here. And here's what I'm thinking is that it's kind of normal to, for example, for Furion to TP here and make a lot of noise here, so that Nemiga rotate to this position and then Rosh is free. And then you basically trade Furion for Aegis, but you also trade it not just for the Aegis, you also trade Furion for setting up that macro idea, which in my opinion is very valuable. And well, Astini obviously agrees, because it's kind of his creation. And Nemiga are kind of, I guess they're thinking the same thing. So maybe in some sense, one win are thinking we can't do Rosh because they're gonna come and just kill us. I don't really know what they're thinking. They might be hesitant because they're worried they didn't get enough advantage from laning. Now they're trying to protect Rosh. But the thing is, Nemiga really all they have to figure out is Rosh being killed? If like all you have to do is have somebody smoked up come up here, and if the smoke doesn't break, you don't really care, because it's not that you want to do rush yourself. It's more or less that you just want to prevent Roche from dying at this timing. And it's kind of all that happens. So realistically, nothing really happens. Nemiga, you can see they kind of played it like they're aware of the Astini Macro. But then they're like, okay, they're not even trying to do it, so they just TP and get Jakiro. And theoretically, if we're, thinking about the timings, 1830 is, although late to kill Roche, it's still within the time window. Like, killing Roche right now after the 2 TPs is still, good enough. But you can see 1 win are just like they missed the opportunity there. They haven't done it, and they are not planning to do it. They're slightly outfarming Nemiga, but really it's not enough. It's not like a steady pace of, we have like 1k GPM advantage. So every minute that nothing happens, we're just getting ahead and ahead. Like nothing like that is happening. And then there's this kind of semi-random fight in mid. Kind of lose, and at this point you can see that they kind of lost, as the kids nowadays say, lost the plot a little bit, because nothing really happened. I don't know exactly why. Maybe they kind of saw that killing Roche is impossible, and if they go for it, they will just feed. I don't really know. But what happens after that, after they miss this opportunity, you can see that their whole laning, like pressure, everything, it just, what are they playing for now is hard to say. As they do lose the Tormentor as well. They don't have the Aegis to go for it. They didn't prepare for it. They lose the Tormentor, and the whole timing is gone. Now the game has equalized, and Roche is actually, now Nemiga have an opportunity to go for Roche themselves, which is, now they have the same thing, the same idea, this Astini Macro idea, and you can see they're going at 22 minutes, which is precisely when you want to go. This is the earliest you want to kill Roche, so that the timing is set up. So it does seem like 1 win were not prepared for this, and at the same time, Nemiga know exactly what Astini Macro is. So they do set it up. They get the Aegis, and well, they also got the Tormentor. And now you can see they're like they have Zhao playing a bit more active in a sense on the map, because they just feel a bit more confident. There's more they can do. Now that 1 win are kind of, in a bad spot, I would say. Now they're starting to move, thinking they have to do something. But realistically, it's not even, I don't think it's even on them, but really there's nothing to do now. There's just nothing to do on the map now except to farm and maybe, get some free kills somewhere. But then in modern Dota, like, getting free kills is it's not up to you if you're gonna get a free kill, at some point. It's like more or less enemy making a mistake more often than not, especially in these like organized games. And then there's this fight mid. Despite them having this tower, this fight sort of is it's kind of closer. It's kind of closer than you might think. But because of this Aegis, they just don't care. Like, they play so free on Nemiga because they're certain, just even if they commit on Zhao, it's gonna be worth it for us. And Nemiga are also not worried because they know how Roche is gonna spawn, and they know they're gonna have advantage for the next Roche as well. So even in this fight, even like if they lose Aegis for nothing, like it's some terrible fight with, I don't know, some insane initiation, double shackles, whatever, it's still probably not gonna turn out so bad that it's game losing because they control the Roche. Now 1 win are in in a spot where what really can they do about the Roche? And the answer, it's like the roles are reversed. There was nothing Nemiga could have done about early Roche from 1 win, but now it's reversed. The only real pressure they can execute is try to lure heroes from Rosh when Rosh is going to be happening and try to stall it out so that Rosh walks back top again. And theoretically, it's possible with like Furion. He's going Manta, which is not a bad idea, I think, in this kind of scenario. Kind of actually makes a lot of sense. You can, do quite a bit of split pushing with it. Obviously helps against starter, etc. But against dispel is just very important. So there are some ideas that they can execute in Fury and it's still kind of relevant to the game. But you can see how setting up this macro just solves so many problems that theoretically Nemiga's draft has. Because this draft playing, dire draft into Aegis, into this Rosh timer setup, feels desperate because every fight you take might just be game losing when you don't have Aegis. But when they have Aegis, they're not really worried about farm that much because you can see they're playing in such a way that they're not focusing on trying to get like a bigger and bigger advantage. They're not taking these like risky moves, all that. They're not trying to dive somewhere, etc. Because they don't really care about getting more farm. Here they sort of make a mistake, I guess. They lose Drow after Aegis, and it feels like a win for one win, but then it doesn't have like map consequences, macro consequences, because there's nothing really you can do on the map. Meanwhile, you really like just get a bit of gold out of it. And you can see the valley, the net worth valley that I was talking about earlier is there. Here it's not so obvious, but if we look at this graph here, it's kind of more obvious. We stay in this like corridor of like minus 5k plus 5k, and both teams just stay there. They do get some kind of kill on Furion, which again doesn't really move sort of the net worth difference too much. There's gonna be another Tormentor. This is probably one of the best opportunities for one win to get some kind of advantage because there's no Aegis and there's something to fight for. But they're behind on gold and it's not clear if they even have the better draft. They do get Axe, who has Crimson Guard. He didn't manage to. Oh wow, they chain locked him. But they kill Axe and lose Tormentor. If it was the other way that they get Tormentor and Axe survives, it's probably also inconsequential because all Nemiga have to do is not lose a big fight before Rosh. And for that, they just need to kind of focus on having buybacks. And who has buybacks? Well, Axe should have his buyback for Rosh. So will Slaughter. Unfortunately, for one win, you can see kind of, you feel this sort of desperation because of how economy is not telling the whole story here. You might think, okay, it's just 4k gold, and maybe it is. Maybe there are things you can do. Maybe you just need to switch up the plan, try to not defend Roche, but you have to come up with something, something different, something you can do. Really, let's put it this way, it's the ball is in one win court, and I think there are like I have ideas that might work out in this situation, but you kind of have to get the game, make the game dirty in a way. Like you gotta get creative and so on. Nemiga are trying to this wrap around, and then one win are doing the same thing. Nemiga are in a much better spot simply because did they farm their buybacks? No, they all spent their buybacks. Drow spent her buyback as well. Well, the both supports have buybacks, and this is probably why Ringmaster is just walking in at first, just like face checking. So they kind of assume that one buyback is probably going to be enough. Well, we don't get a fight, or do we? No, we will get a fight. You can see how this is sort of what they want. They want to get Roche, how to put it, uh, just so that the timer runs out. The problem really is nothing changes economically. Uh, Nemiga are okay with this. Obviously, this is not ideal. They would want to take Roche. And I think because they spent the buybacks, maybe that's why they can't take Roche. Because realistically, I think they do have the advantage here and should try to force a fight here, just win it with buybacks and have Roche. Again, maybe, I'm seeing from my perspective in the game, it might feel different. They don't really know the economic situation. They might feel like, okay, if we lose this Roche fight somehow, then it's going to be pretty bad for us. Okay, so the fight starts preemptively, I guess, because there's a catch on somebody. Tusk buys back. Drow gets out. One win do find an opportunity, so they kind of get it. Maybe it's because they're fighting better. Well, we can actually see what happened. Okay, so they wait on a rune and get two-man spear. Ags on Jakir, a lot of damage. Ags can't get out because he has no BKB. Kind of a very awkward fight. Drow four stuffs into. Well, you could say that this is just basically like skill issues for Nemiga. Like what they're doing is a bit awkward. And one win were looking for opportunity and they found it, but the problem persists. They have to use a buyback to win this fight. Well, kind of not have to, but they use a buyback to win this fight. Now Nemiga also used two buybacks for this. Um, why is this relevant? Although it looks like a game of Dota and everything can happen, you can see how much harder a game has become for one win simply because of where Roche is. Like the game just has become unstable and it keeps going on, and there's no advantage for one win. You kind of no even if you're better, if you're higher skill players or better team, you still want the gold advantage to kind of have this safety net against some good plays for your enemies or your mistakes. They do end up waiting for Roche to go top, and now it seems like this should be one win advantage because it's equal gold, and they can set up the cycle. But for some reason, for some unknown to me reason, they decide to go for Roche now, even though. And I guess this kind of confirms that they don't really know the cycle. Because killing Roche now is not exactly a good idea. Because then it has how many? Like 2 minutes, I think. Uh, chance of him respawn. Like if they kill Roche at what, 30 minutes or what is it? 35 minutes. So if they kill Roche at 35 minutes, uh, yeah, it's more likely to spawn during daytime. And really what you want is waste Nemiga's time right now. Not really force this fight, especially they use their buybacks. So it's like they have a choice to make on Nemiga. Like, okay, we used our buybacks, now we fight, or we use our buybacks, now we farm. And until you see that, you kind of have to sort of stall, I guess, because stalling is free for you. You have Furin who can farm. And again, killing Roche right now, although Aegis is very nice for you, it's very good. Maybe it's game winning, but it's gonna still be game winning in 2 minutes. Nothing, really crazy is gonna happen if you don't go for Roche. Unfortunately, they do go for Roche, and there's pretty good spellcasting. There's no BKB on Mars yet. Kind of Furin gets caught. Things are happening, and well, unfortunately for them, they lose the Roche fight. Um, because they didn't really use any of their advantages, such as for example Mars buyback or Furion being able to teleport everywhere. They didn't set up the map. They didn't set up like the fight in terms of like, okay, I'm gonna feed and I'm gonna buy back and we're gonna win the fight because of that. They don't have buybacks. They didn't set anything up, and it wasn't even for a fight for anything that good. They end up losing Roche, and well, from here on out, it's kind of a straightforward game for Nemiga. You have a hero that hits towers. That hero is protected 2 different ways, maybe even 3 different ways. You just hit the towers and see what the enemy does. You can see they're really trying to use the sages. They do end up finding like 2 supports, which is probably, best thing you can do right now. Because cores are probably going to play, so much safer. And that's the same idea. We still have ages. For 1 minute, we hit the towers. No support, so all 3 cores are hitting. And even if this Aegis doesn't win the game for them, you can see, like, at this point now, when you don't have, like, 1 lane of Rax and this mobility issue that Dire had, kind of, not only, like, as game progresses, it becomes less of a problem, it's also, like, taking lane of Rax also kind of solves a little bit of that. Because it's much easier to control the map. Aegis runs out, they get Rush, they get Tormentor. And theoretically, they are gonna wait for the next Rush to go. I guess they won't. Because they seem stronger. It really is up to them, like what they decide. If they think they're strong enough, then they can go high ground. If they think they need Rush, they can get Rush. Because it's not even set up so that, one win get more favorable Rush spawn. So it's like the likelihood that Rush is gonna spawn here. One win kind of take the last chance to do something. It's hard. There's enough farm on Nemiga, and really there isn't anything to fight for. Nemiga again, they have the same kind of idea. Just like we just need to not lose the fight. We don't have to win it. And if we don't lose it, then the game automatically progresses into our favor. Or in our favor. Alright, well, that's kind of it. You can see that the game really lost its structure for 1 win at about this period, where 1 win they weren't. It didn't happen because Nemiga did something really good, although they kind of played this like predictive thing trying to stop the rush that wasn't happening. But really, 1 win's hesitance to set up the macro is kind of what made the game hard for them. It's not the only thing they could change to win the game, but you can see how much easier it is to set up this rush than try to figure out how to win those fights, how to play this part of the map, etc. So it's just a very easy kind of way to play the game when you're Radiant and you pick like strong lanes and win lanes, and then you have your rush ability to take rush. Instead, 1 win kind of spent their time doing nothing really, and yeah, that kind of spiraled out of control for them. All right, that was that. Thanks for watching, and good luck.